Good evening. This is Peter Helland with Robert Smith and Henry Davis Jr. on Public Access Michiana. And we are the group Public Access Michiana started after the public access channel was shut down 7 or so years ago. And we started up, a bunch of people in town started up to advocate to get it back up. And by the blessings of God, the city's county council, city of Mishawaka, and the city of South Bend formed an agreement, a 5-year agreement, to have the opportunity for the citizens to have their own local channel. And tonight we have Henry Davis. He's on the second council, but he's going to run for mayor.
Yes.
And it's somewhat of a privilege to have Henry here because Henry was instrumental in helping us get the public access channel. And we are grateful for that. We're grateful for everybody that assisted in that. So part of what we're about is getting the political candidates, getting the people that are in office, because generally it's the people in office that decide if money is going to be allocated to keep funding public access. And usually private citizens do not just send out their private money to support this. Okay, and so we have to lean hard on the franchise fee that comes from Comcast and AT&T to provide this service to the community. And so we're here to let Henry discuss the race for mayor that you are running for.
Sure. Well, I want to say thank you to both for allowing me to be on the show with you. I've been on council close to 7.5 years now. I began serving close to 10 years ago. I started as a precinct committee chairman. I actually campaigned for that position when people were being appointed by then Chairman Bush Morgan. I had to campaign for that particular position. I then went off and became a state delegate through the blessings of the Democratic Party. Thereafter, after a couple of years of that, I successfully ran for Secretary District Council, unseating a 12-year incumbent, Charlotte Pfeiffer, then as a president of the City Council, South Bend City Council. Upon entering into that seat, I had an opportunity, a valuable experience of learning how city government worked. I had a very awesome opportunity and challenge of advocating for folks who probably have never had that sort of advocacy, being loud, being called a whistleblower, I've been called a champion, I've been called a thorn in someone's side, I've been, a person who's not been for the status quo, and I've made sure to maintain a level of responsiveness to my constituency base. That's the only reason why I'm there. Folks voted me in. They asked for change. They asked for someone to be as transparent, as available as possible. I did those things. I worked very hard in making sure and maintaining there was a direct line of communication that was offered to the constituency base. After getting the confidence built back within the city residents with the city government, because there's always been a disconnect. Folks have always felt like that city government doesn't care anything about them. They don't want to listen to them, and sort of the same sentiments that are happening right now. And they wanted to make sure that they had someone, or believed that someone could do it. The challenge to me was making sure that they, were to believe back in it. As years moved past, things go on. So I was able to serve on several countless committees, getting work done. I was able to start a partnership between the school system and the city of South Bend to meet on a regular basis, which is now an ordinance, to help carve out and look to how we look at our children's future. How do we participate in defining how the city looks as it relates to the schools, things that are very pertinent to economic development. I've been able to incentivize businesses to grow downtown, to come up with more ways for hiring employees. They translated into a installation of a riverfront development license, which is a liquor license that normally would probably cost $30 grand now costs $1,000 because of my work of advocacy and legislation.
Henry, I'm gonna backtrack just a touch.
Sure.
Your background, you're from South Bend.
Yes, I'm definitely from South Bend.
So this, I mean, this is your turf.
Yes.
And, you know, what's the basics? I mean, you went to grade school, you know, I used to substitute teach.
I'm public school educated. I went to
Okay.
Kennedy Elementary School. I went to Dickinson, it's intermediate now. It was middle school when I went
Okay.
there. Dickinson Bears, and then I also went to LaSalle High School. I graduated from LaSalle High School in 1997.
Okay.
Had an awesome opportunity to, you know, meet a lot of people. The people that I still am in contact with here locally.
I substitute taught at Kennedy.
Sure.
I can remember the sixth grade class, that was a hard one. And then and then Dickinson, got a little wild at Dickinson.
Well, yeah,
And then,
teenagers.
Right, and then LaSalle had the reputation of being the worst.
No.
But then when you got there, it wasn't as bad. I'm talking about substitute teachers.
Yeah, sure.
But when you got there, it wasn't so bad.
Right. So I then graduated from high school, and I had an opportunity to go to Indiana University in South Bend. I did. Went there for 2 years. Decided to transfer after my second year, and I ultimately ended up at Earlham College, which is in Richmond, Indiana. It's a private institution, Quaker tradition, religion background, and graduated from there in 2002.
You went there all 4 years?
No, I did 2 years at IUSB, and I spent 3 at Earlham, so it was a
Okay.
total of 5.
Associates, yeah.
Yeah, so I had a mixed college background. At this point, I get to see what the private sector does, private schools do, and also what the public, you know.
Well, a lot of people go to their local college for a couple of years for the economy, I mean, the economics of it is expensive, right?
Well, yeah, at that point in time, I wanted to be an athlete, and I wanted to experience athletics at a higher level. Although IUSB was at a higher level than Earlham College when it came to men's basketball. But Earlham offered another opportunity of being on the campus, engaging in campus life, you know, things that I wasn't able to experience on the college campus at Indiana University. There weren't any dorms available at that time. So,
What did you major in there?
at Earlham, I majored in fine arts. Got a degree in art. My medium was drawing.
Wow.
Wanted to really be an architect all my life. That was a lifelong dream. I wanted to build houses. I wanted to build skyscrapers. I wanted to design, you know, things that people would find useful. It was my dream. Yes.
Right, and that can be useful as far as like a vision. I mean, like it says, Jesus is the greatest house, is the builder of the house, you know, we're his
Sure.
house, right? I mean,
Yes.
so you have to have it doesn't hurt you. You kind of have to get a vision
Well,
of certain things.
Well, it helps enhance me in my elected posts. I'm able to see, you know, things that normally other people probably wouldn't be able to see, given the time that we have to spend on, you know, legislation, listen to presentations. I'm able to envision exactly what they're talking about, you know, because that's something that, you know, obviously was given to me at birth as a talent. So,
And you have an artist, I mean, I have friends that, I'm thinking of my family back in Wisconsin at homeschool.
Sure.
One boy was very artistic, and he was quite different. I mean,
Yeah.
when you're artistic, you approach things different, isn't that?
Well, some of us do. And
I mean, you can.
Some folks are, you know, introverts, you know, some are extroverts. Most artists are introverts. They don't do a lot of talking. They will, you know, sit back and look at you and probably just observe who you are before they engage. Obviously, I'm a bit different. I'm more outgoing. I talk a lot. I participate in conversation. As a matter of fact, I'm the one that probably engages people in conversation. So I had a problem with that when I was in school because, you know, you're in a room and you're trying to talk to everybody and people, they don't want to talk in the studio. Do not talk in the studio. Do not talk in the studio. So that was one of my downfalls of being in art classes. I'm a talker, you know, so yeah. But upon, you know, graduating from college, I came back home for probably about a year. I did a number of like after school touring programs. I participated in so many different things that ordinarily doesn't pay that amount of money, the amount of money that you can live on. So, you know, I'm back at the parents' house, I'm hanging out, you know, I'm doing those sorts of things, and still have that college buzz going, you know. I had opportunity, and I ended up moving down to Atlanta, Georgia, I experienced probably close to a year down there. And as I'm maturing, I'm starting to see a lot of things differently with life and also with
There,
the world.
there is a lot of South Bend people that move, I mean, I've known South Bend people that moved to Atlanta, right?
Right. Yeah, that
It wasn't
seems to be
unusual, yeah.
No, it wasn't unusual. It was probably unusual for me because again, I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. Obviously, I didn't want to pursue architecture school because I hadn't. All I knew I wanted to do was help people. Was where I was really at, you know, in my life and what my thought process was. Upon staying down there for, you know, like I said, a number of months, I ended up coming back home. Was more comfortable here because home is always home. And I began to see sorts of those things that you call visions. Now I'm able to compare, you know, different places. I'm able to compare Richmond to South Bend. I'm able to compare South Bend to Richmond, Indiana. I'm able to compare South Bend to Atlanta. I'm able to compare, you know, lifestyles, cultures, job opportunities, the political structure, all of this schooling that I've had, you know, since I entered in school in Kennedy, now all the way through college, now into real life experience, those things started to come to me. And so I came home with the thought and a mind to engage myself deeper into the way things worked here in South Bend. Again, I still don't know how these things work or what's the button to push to make these things change. So again, I started just participating in various community activities. I started doing my own. I started doing food drives. I kicked those things off with a basketball game between the police department and fire department. We called it Hooper for Humanity. I did that probably for about 3 years with the Broadway Christian Parish for their holiday bazaar that they have every year. We raised some funds, some canned goods, and also some toys for the children so they can go and shop for their parents. And their parents would go shop for them as well. Thereafter, I bit an idea from Chicago and Indianapolis. We were able to start getting kids haircuts for free before they go back to school. We should give them school supplies and haircuts. Since the inception of that particular program, we've served over 6,000 kids, and we've been doing it close. Last year was our 9th year.
You cutting their hair.
The barbers here
Yeah.
locally, they got together. They volunteered their time, and they thought it was a great idea for them to make sure kids went back to school feeling fresh, feeling loved, and feeling valued. So it was a collective effort, shared interest. So we've been doing that program. Like I said, it'll be 10 years this coming August. So and that program is people want to see that program every year, and I think that's great. People have bought into it. We get a lot of sponsorships, et cetera, that the community really respects and values.
Now, one thought that just hit my mind, and I sent the email to Bob maybe this morning, but I listen to sermons on my job, and there's sermon audio has 900,000 sermons, and they always have a little news clip, latest news, and the latest news today, there's like 7 or 8 items, was the condition of the black family. That is just statistically doesn't look good at all, as far as the marriages and,
Sure.
All the statistics that we know about. That is a concern for you, obviously, right? I mean, how to strengthen the community, how to strengthen the family, isn't that?
We have to talk about the overall community here in South Bend as it
Okay.
relates to the global community.
Okay.
We have to become more regionally minded, but South Bend specific, okay? Just said a lot there. What I'm going to get at is that it's a part of the reason why I've stepped out on faith to run for the mayor's office this time around. You're talking about family. Family is the strength and the backbone of any community, any church as well. If you don't have a family, you're probably breaking down the way your society values the human being. The strength is not available there. The support system is not there. You start seeing children not being taught the values that they should be taught. You start seeing just all sorts of things such as crime happening, dropout rates going up and increasing. Housing becomes the issue. Neighborhood, again, we just go into this ball of confusion. And so we definitely need to start concentrating on families, recruiting families here, making sure that we provide an accommodating atmosphere to grow families, for families to grow. We really need to focus in on families. I think that has to be probably the number one
Well,
priority.
that's what I've always thought. I mean, I've never
others-
heard you say it directly, but
Yeah.
I've always thought that's kind of where you were thinking.
Well, the last few times I ran, we had, our slogan was faith, family, and community. Because
Okay.
again, we keep going back to family, 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 family. And family doesn't necessarily mean that there's a nuclear family, the dad, the mom, and the two kids, boy and girl. Family is evolving now, as we do see, but there has to be a nucleus, there has to be a standard, there has to be a definition to what family is. And we have to start keying in on those standards. We're starting to see a lot of those standards being stripped away as well. Government is participating in, redefining how traditional family looks. What does traditional family sound like? And so those things are becoming a culture shock also to not only myself, but people that are older than me and many that are obviously young. So South Bend has a great opportunity right now. South Bend, only in the 2nd District itself, has well over 30 churches. Those churches were started by families. So there is a baseline, there is a definitive understanding that South Bend loves and supports
Actually,
families.
what you just said, I think the sum of that article was that the hope for the strengthening of the families is the black churches. And you could just say churches. But
Yes, the article stressed that the family is the basis, and it's also the basis for the church, and that the church has to help to strengthen the black family if the black family is to survive in the future. So hearing that, demonstrates that you already know what the importance of the family is, and the public needs to know that you value families, and then maybe you can speak to a plan or some ideas at which can be done to help to make the family more stronger.
Definitely. And so myself, I have a wife. I've been married for 7 years. I have a son who is 6 years old, who just started kindergarten this year. Very rambunctious, full of energy. I love him to death. And so the conversation obviously changes for me as it relates to how I want his world to look, or how I foresee it changing for the good, for the best, or even for the worse. During the time, my time being here on council, again, it was incumbent upon me to make sure that those relationships between the city government and the school government were meaningful, they were progressive, and allowing the educational system to help grow these students that have families, that are part of these families. It was also necessary for me to not only look at that relationship, but also participate in making sure the city's resources and accommodations, such as recreational centers. We have 2. Now we have more than 2. We have like 4 or 5 in District 2. Martin Luther King Recreational Center, and also Charles Black Recreational Center, to name 2 I have really worked hand in hand with, and establishing new programming for the kids in the community. The first 2 years I think I was on council, I was able to start a partnership with Indiana University, South Bend, with the Radcliffe School of Arts. Marvin Curtis is the dean over there, and we put together a state award winning art program where this has never happened for the city of South Bend. And the children were able to learn, courses in art, from singing to dancing, community choir, to painting, the whole 9. That program lasted for a better part of about a year and a half. Like I said, we won multiple state awards, because the kids were definitely engaged. They had something to do that was different other than playing basketball. From that point on, we wanted to make sure the resources centers were updated. The Martin Luther King Center has been around since the 1970s, early 70s. And 2 years ago was the first time they have received new lights outside on their basketball courts. They were still using the same lights that they started with. I was able to get new lights, inside and outside. They were our energy saving bulbs, to save some energy. but neither are they ever able to get those things done. As well as the Charles Black Center. We were able to put in a new baseball field over at the Martin Luther King Center during this time. We were able to get more funding, obviously adjusted for those two particular centers for more programming, okay?
Mm-hmm.
One of the most damaging things that I investigated, was able to take care of over there at those two centers. They didn't even have a dumpster when I first started. People may feel like that is small, but I want to tell you how big it is. The trash cans that they used to dump their trash in for it to be picked up by the city, on the Monday or the Tuesday of the week of each week, they will have multiple trash cans. These trash cans had no lids, so when there was a huge breeze, that trash will leave out of those trash cans and
All around the neighborhood,
it'll be all around the neighborhood.
smelling.
So it wasn't just the trash can that needed to be changed. The neighborhood where these kids lived, at their environment, needed cleaning up as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it worked in tandem with the environment, making it was conducive to living in these places.
Right.
So I go back to that because it sounds like it's minor, but it's huge. And this goes back to what we were talking about with families being able to live in an environment that helps them grow. We have to also get back to those educational opportunities to allow kids to have or be back at neighborhood schools. Schools are
Like the old neighborhood school issue.
Schools are anchors of neighborhoods. Okay, Kennedy School being an example, that's in District 2 as well, that used to allow kids from that particular neighborhood to walk to that school. Currently, we see more than 30, 40 buses each morning and every afternoon dropping off kids and picking kids up. That's an enormous cost to the transportation budget here.
That was initially a good idea as far as the integration, but now you're saying it's kind of gotten too far. I mean,
Well, you have to
trying to integrate, but at the same time, what about the neighborhood?
Well, see, so then the neighborhood dies.
Right.
Okay?
So you can't go crazy on an idea without.
Well, you see no kids walking home anymore. If you go over there before school and after school, you will not see anybody walking home or walking to school.
So that means they don't get familiar with their neighborhood.
That's tragic. And they probably not.
Everybody just stays home, and then after a while they get afraid to go out, even in their own neighborhood. All right, are we looking at?
Well, you have that, so the foot traffic that you would look for if you were an entrepreneur in that particular area. We used to leave the school and go have time at this local corner store to buy penny candy.
A lot of the
So-
action growing up is when you leave school.
Yeah.
And you're walking home.
So you're talking about
Stop at your friends. Yeah.
So you're talking about transferring money within the neighborhood and making sure folks will have the opportunity not only to transfer this money to help grow the economy in that small area, but there is also this intangible thing that you cannot ever pay for. It's the relationships that are fostered
Right.
by having these neighborhoods strong. Since all of these things have taken place, you are seeing more of the decay of neighborhoods. You're starting to see less and less street repair, sidewalk repair, curb repair.
Right.
Here recently, the council is now working on a way of trying to find or define more dollars for tree lawn repair with these trees, falling down or being extremely old, or how do we remove them? Who do we pass the cost off to? And so these are the things that help develop and strengthen the family when you're trying to find a place to locate and you're trying to raise your children. You need a school, you need an accommodation store like a grocery store or something you go to, you definitely need a church. These are three things people actually look for. And the ability to even have recreation nearby as well is one of the things that helps out with the family union.
A thought before I forget it. Obviously, what we're doing right here
For sure.
is we're reaching out to the community. We're trying to
Right.
bring the community to participate in this discussion.
Sure.
And this is Public Access Michiana, and of course you helped greatly in getting this up and going, along with a lot of people. And you mentioned other cities that you bounce ideas off of. In Ann Arbor, for example, has 20 city employees supporting their public access channels.
That's great.
10 of them full-time, so
That's
10 of them
great.
half-time.
That's great.
But they see that as helpful to enriching the community. In other words, bringing people in the community into discussions, participating, so people can feel like they're participating. So if they want to have a show, and people can listen to them, they have a voice, and of course you can get on YouTube and you can do the Twitter and the Facebook. But this is unique, what we're doing now,
Right.
because a lot of people, whoever has Comcast and AT&T, have a chance to watch this.
Right.
And city council meetings, according to Ann Arbor and those people, when they film a city council meeting, it's the most watched show.
That's great.
In town, but not many people go to a meeting. True, I mean,
No, people don't participate in city government.
but they'll participate through the TV.
Well, right, and people they call it boring.
Yeah.
And it can get boring. It definitely can get boring sometimes. But and even with the neighborhoods, we're going back to neighborhoods. I'm going to translate this to the other point of my platform because jobs is a part of the platform, and we're talking about public safety now. Okay, education was the next one. We hit on education. The other one is public safety.
Is that the crime issue? Is that-
But the crime issue, okay, all of these things run into, it's like it's a ball of confusion.
Oh.
Okay, so, if we don't take care of it properly, public safety is usually number one, number two on people's list. Everybody wants to feel safe. What we were able to do during one time on council, what I was able to do, we were able to do on downtown, working with some business owners, was able to put a substation downtown. This substation was not necessarily to scare anyone or to put anybody on notice. It was a way of securing the area, making people feel safer because we had a...
Was that Chris Toth? Was that the time?
No, sir.
No.
This was myself, Mr. Andrew Nemeth, who is...
This was totally different than that substation that they had. I thought they used to have those police substations.
No, when Chris Toth was in office, I was in college, so I'm not familiar with any of his
I know they
policies.
had substations all over.
No, I don't know anything about his
Okay.
policies. But what we did downtown, we were able to put down a substation, again, to give that perception that we were safe downtown. You always would hear about the vacancy rate of downtown being, 70% or more, and it's still probably at that level. But it was almost an idea that because of all the homelessness and all the homeless people downtown, panhandling and doing things that, would
Discourage people.
discourage people, we needed a police presence. So what we did was we're able to install that police substation down there. Things changed. You start seeing officers walking downtown. You start seeing them on their scooters downtown. You start seeing a lot more cars downtown. Since the new administration has come in, as well as the new chief of police, that no longer exists. So again, people are still looking for this, but it worked. It worked. So an idea of what my administration will do is make sure that we are going to higher crime areas and making sure that those substations are available, so that people will start having more of a community feel with the police force. It's not an us against them scenario. I definitely can talk about that. A few weeks back, I was able to author a piece of legislation that was called Bettering Police and Citizen Relationships. It had 4 key points, and one of the key points were obviously starting conversations with officers to develop something called a Citizens Review Board. Citizens Review Board, over 100 cities across America have these. These things give a voice to the community, voice to people who are citizens in those communities, so those citizens feel like they have a say-so in what's going on. It's very difficult thinking that you're going to get a fair shake if the government itself are hand-picking people and picking people on this board, because how can the government investigate themselves?
Right, I mean, I've
So,
had
so,
experience.
so, so it allows more transparency in the conversation, and there's nothing wrong with it because again, it gives the confidence back to the people to say that this thing is working for me. You understand what I'm saying? And so within that, in the context of public safety, we have to begin to honor that there is crime. We can't say the crime is going down and murders have doubled. And that has been a most recent news report, as if murder is not crime.
What's your definition of crime in the sense that we're focusing on the family, and a father in the home could use the word crime too, and that's when his daughter or son misbehaves, and he finds some way to punish him for misbehavior, and you could use the word crime. In other words, crime is doing something that you're not supposed to do.
Depends on what the law is.
Right, but you're running a home, you have laws.
Well, the law.
You say, everybody, you gotta be in bed at 8 o'clock, and he says, I'm gonna stay up as far as I can, and you say, no, or whatever. So there has to be a connection between the family and this issue of crime. In other words, if they're not raised in their family right.
No, you're right.
You know, see how I'm trying to make that connection?
No, that connection is there, and it's also a disconnect as well. And that was the reason why I was working really hard to make sure we were installing programs in those neighborhood centers where the kids would be at that probably didn't have the two-parent household or that were coming from the broken homes.
See, but you see what I'm trying to do? In other words, the word crime kind of has its own thing out there, where in the family, we may not use the word crime when they misbehave, and then all of a sudden, we start using that word for misbehavior. But misbehavior is misbehavior. I mean, wrong is wrong.
Well, I don't want to look at crime as being in the home as it is outside of the home.
No, not exactly, but
No, and so I want to, stick to the point of what happens, outside, where I'm at,
Okay.
as a local legislator, where I'm at as making sure that the budget supports, a police presence, a fire presence, a public safety presence for the community, and making sure the community, stays safe.
But the police still is there's a family connection even with the police. You're saying the police need to be connected to the community,
Yes.
okay? And so that's what I'm trying to.
Well, the police should be connected to the community, and just
Right.
like the community should be connected to, the different various families that are within the community. There's a shared interest. There always is a shared interest.
Because like in the Martin Luther King Club, it's always being discussed, when people were younger, their mom would spank anybody in the community, In other words, if you did wrong, the neighbor would step in and handle it.
Well, sure.
And we don't have that anymore, and the police are kind of an extension of something. They're connected. I mean, Bob, I know you're,
Well, another way to put that is that in the family, you have just behavioral problems, Now, the issue there is to what extent does behavioral problems in the family get to be crime in the community? Meaning that if family cannot correct behavioral problems in the home, then that child will get out in the community, and the child is more likely to get involved in crime. Whereas if the behavioral problem is taken care of in the home, then it's less likely that a child will get involved.
They'll become a more responsible adult,
Right.
law-abiding citizen.
right, I think
Yes.
that concept has to be on the table when we're,
Well, look, it has to be on the table. However, again, I'm over here. Me entering into your home and telling you how you should police your home, how you're supposed to rear your child, how you are supposed to make sure that child is learning. I'm a legislator. I am working for the local government. I can help promote happier family environments by making sure the neighborhoods are conducive to a family growth. But me coming in over here and telling you how you should raise your child is not necessarily my idea of as being a mayor or even being a council person. We can have those conversations, but again, it's ultimately to the parent of those
in
children.
that domain.
In that domain, to make sure that child is learning the things that they're supposed to learn in order to be a responsible adult later on in life. One thing I want to add as an addition is that even with this public safety, Board of Public Safety that we do have here, and then going into the Citizens Review Board, we do need to have an engagement of the faith community as well as the police officers and all the public safety. We've seen this in many other communities that help promote those sorts of conversations where a lot of the folks from the faith community, churches perhaps, will help spur not only conversations but programming for ex-offenders, folks that are coming back out of prison. And so you'll drop the recidivism rates, and you're also help training and preparing them to enter back into society. Or if you are a child, you have a safe haven to learn some of those values that you're talking about that are probably being taught at a home that's probably broken in some way. So there is also a way that the community government local government can engage at another level to help churches that are more community civic minded to produce those results. And those are, and there's a lot of creative ways. I've seen in Chicagoland area where churches have produced community development corporations, CDCs, and they've actually bought a number of the houses around the church, blocks and blocks of houses. And what they were doing were filling the houses with a lot of parishioners, congregants. And they were actually controlling the element within that neighborhood so that neighborhood could not only grow, but it will flourish, because the crime, will be controlled. The property values could be, raised because people are taking care of their properties. They're actually setting the standard by the teachings within the church, but also it going out of those church doors into those individual homes. So there are a lot of creative ways to changing the rule of thumb when it comes to public safety. It doesn't always start and end with the police department. It can also start, with the vision of a mayor and making sure those things are being introduced in a different way, creative way, to help support what our hardworking officers do on their day-to-day job.
Right. I mean, of course, I grew up, Bob, you probably did too, there was very few policemen needed when we were young. I'm from Wisconsin Dells, and we'd have two.
Well, you were swimming a whole lot then.
Huh?
You were probably swimming a whole lot, huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, we had to swim. Wisconsin had a mandatory swimming rule.
Yeah.
But times have changed, okay?
Yes.
I mean, growing up in the 50s and 60s, we'd have 2 big dances a week, and there were no policemen monitoring, and there were kids from all over the various towns. But you can't do that. You can't bring these kids together for these bigger activities because their behavior gets, call it what you want, violent or...
Well, you know what? I can't believe that anymore. I can't go into a higher office thinking what we can't do. What I think that we should do is open the opportunities up. If I only see you once a year and it's a once a year event, chances are, because we don't have a relationship, something is going to happen that's less than desirable. We have to begin to open this thing up and allow those community programming ideas to grow and to happen on a regular, consistent basis. We used to have Gus Macker, and we're bringing it back this year, this summer actually, it's coming back, where, you have a 3-on-3 basketball tournament of all ages, all genders, all sizes. Everybody's playing basketball. We have to begin to reintegrate the community. You just can't go back in your house, close the door and say, oh, they're violent out there, they're crazy out there, it's too much. I'm going to go in my house, close the door, and shut the blinds.
Right.
Well, then you're obviously setting a level or setting a tone to let violence take over your community. We can't allow that to happen. If Chicago did that, then they'll probably be shut down completely. I mean, and I'm not being funny about it. Over 500 murders in 1 year is,
Right, no, Chicago, yeah.
It's terrible. But for them to shut down a Taste of Chicago, the auto trade show, everything that comes through there because of violence, that means violence has won and you have lost, and we all might as well find a plot.
Well, South Bend used to have their annual, what did they
It
call
was used to be Ethnic Festival.
Right.
And that was one of the things someone asked me. I do a lot of social media, and one of the folks that, a person that said that they wanted to support my campaign was asking me about would I would, honor an Ethnic Festival. Well, we were working towards that a few years ago. Martha, she used to run on the Howard Park General Store, and she passed, God rest her soul. We were actually working towards that, and obviously she passed, and the ball was dropped, and here we are. But most certainly, I would love to see that happen. That was a time when I was growing up where the churches actually took part in that at a very high level.
Oh, yeah, we used to, our church, we used to have,
That's
we do passing out our flyers.
well, sure, and that was a part of it. And and if you paid attention to how those things were being opened up, the adults actually started taking over. The grandparents obviously started taking over. So children were less likely, to come in, or the kids that had, the issues were less likely to come in and start trouble. Now, I'm not saying no trouble happened, no one stole, no one fight.
No, but
but
not to the point that you
Yeah.
you have to cancel it.
Well, we can't be scared of it. We have to stop being scared of it. And we also have to be tough on crime. And then that was the other point I wanted to make. We have to be tough on it. As much as I like, all these new programming and fundamental ideas that should work out, criminals need to know that, this is not tolerable. Your actions are intolerable. And there's a penalty to pay when you commit crimes here.
Right, I mean, of course, I don't like the idea that, all of a sudden you're tough on crime. Well, they should have been tough on so-called crime when the child was 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
And that's where I'd like to see the toughness really begin, because you wouldn't need to be so tough on it if they were tough on it when they were younger.
Sure.
I mean, Bob, what?
Yeah, that's true. Every child in the family needs to be taught discipline. Discipline is what's missing now, But another issue there, as you go through the process of campaigning towards the primary there are a lot of hot button issues that the residents has. One is the tapes, and the other one for your campaign, as you're going through this, like the citizens need to know what is it that you're going to do, and then what help will you need in getting it done, So with the time that we have left, you can finish telling us about your campaign plan, and then maybe hit on that hot button issue of the tapes,
Well, let me hit the tapes first before
Yeah.
we go into the other conversation. The tapes have arrested our attention for the better part of 3 years at this point. Even last night, we had another outburst from the commander of the Metro Homicide Unit, Mr. Tim Corbett, and Lieutenant David Wells. They came to the council meeting, and they wanted to impress upon the council that the council needs to stop with our subpoena powers, and that we need to just let this go. The mayor, the current mayor, has also said the same thing, although he has said in previous times that he wanted to hear the tapes just as much as everyone else did, and that he was wanting to, make sure that that happened in the most legal way. Well, the most legal way is to continue to go down this path that the council has chosen with our subpoena powers to make sure that those tapes are being heard, whether it's 1 tape out of 7 or 7 out of 7. Okay, so in order for us to be liberated from this issue, our closure and our only closure is not to just say we're done with it. We spent over $3 million combined with settlements and lawyer fees, and it's probably a little bit more than that, to get to this point to say we're dropping it. That would be the most damaging to the city government than it was if we were to go forward in it.
Because there's no closure.
Because there's no closure, and so that again adds to the issues of community and police relations. That also hurts the morale within the police department. That it does a number of things. It hurts the political process. People are less likely to participate. Apathy grows. And again, we spent over $3 million to get this thing heard, and to just drop it would be a disservice. It would be violent for us to drop it. It would be violent. So
Because you're not uncovering what people are worried about, right?
you're not. I think it's not what we're worried about. It's what we already know that it takes place. People are looking for justice at this point.
So they're suppressing. They're suppressing.
It's a suppression.
What shouldn't be suppressed.
Yeah, and people live out this reality. What these tapes have been said to say, what Karen DuPay has said was on the tapes. So people are looking for justice at this point. People don't feel like they should be arrested by this issue anymore. They shouldn't have to live under this rule anymore. And it'll be shame on us if we allow this issue to just go away with the amount of money that's been spent in. Look, I'm going to tell you how much money has been spent. Just as much money has been spent on this, it's going to be just as much money that will be spent on the two major corridors coming from the west end of town, Lincoln Way and Washington Avenue. How does that compare? We're going to use the same amount of money to, disclose information, suppress information as we are to help support the economic development on the west end of town. That doesn't even match up.
No.
Both those stories are tragic. So we have to be intentional in our leadership in making sure that the constituency base here and the population, the residents, know that we're with them and that we're not only interested in justice, but we're going to make sure justice does happen. As it relates to the campaign, we're going to have fun. This is going to be a flat-out grassroots effort. I remember the newspaper saying that you only have 12 cents in your account. I'm afraid to fundraise far more than that amount of money. Actually, I was close to that account because I had to open a new one for my mayor's account. But and the current mayor has over $300,000. Again, this goes back to the level of discussion that we really need to have. We have a poverty rate over 30% here in the city of South Bend. 74% of our kids are on free reduced lunch. 1 out of every 2 children are born into poverty. And we are talking about painting. we're going to focus in on campaigning and also fundraising because we do need money to make sure that we're successful. But not at the level of saying, because I have more money than you, I can control the thoughts of my people. So we've built a volunteer list, and people can go on the website, Henry Davis Jr., and they can, if they want to volunteer, they can go onto the website, they can sign up to volunteer, you'll get a phone call back or email back, and let you know when we have our volunteer sessions and what we're going to be doing. But we want to engage those in the common folk in the community. We will engage the common folk in the community. We've done it before. This is not a hodgepodge idea. This is not something that, could happen. We're going to make this thing happen. We've done it twice already. The same mindset, the same goal was done when we ran for district office. That was a district race. That was, a smaller area. We have the same energy, but we have more support as well now to get it done. And so we have an awesome opportunity this time to elect someone into office that is from this area who has experienced drug dealers across the street from their houses, shootouts in front of their houses, who have seen, rental properties next door to them, have, numerous of individuals live in this environment. I've been in the same house, seen a banker across the street. I've seen the next door neighbor, and she was an older lady. She spent countless days on her porch. I used to hang out with the Polish crowd. She go to all the fish fries and all the Polish dinners. And so my upbringing is very mixed, not because I'm a black guy, I hung out with a lot of black people. Mm-hmm. I've had an awesome opportunity to meet all kinds of people in my life, and getting more and more information from how people live. And usually it's the same. Everybody wants to be safe. Everybody wants to go to a good school, and most people want a good job. That is what the American dream is about. And so as far as all the other grandiose ideas, yeah, sure. We're going to see a few millionaires in our lifetime. We'll be in the presence of a few. But at the most, at the hard-hitting point at home is that people want to remain safe. They want to have a job to take care of their family, right? And they want to be able to experience their area in such a way they have and they feel value from it. Yeah.
Right.
So, that's what this campaign is about. This is what I've been about for the last, 10 years working in city government. This is what the folks in South Bend said that they want to see. They want to see more manufacturing back here. They want to see good jobs. Good job. I can take care of a family. I can raise a family. I can pay a mortgage with this.
What do you think is the scenario? I mean, what's the fear that people have that could happen to South Bend? And then what's the best thing that could happen? What are the two? One's the negative vision and one's the positive vision?
One of the worst fears right now, and this is what's permeating in the atmosphere, is that before it gets better, it gets worse. So it becomes more crime-ridden. People are pushed out even more. The other part of that is that it will be taken over by the 1% of the population or 2% of the population that lives here that has the most money. So then it becomes a more boutique society, and it becomes smaller, okay, and it's being controlled by outside interests, maybe by Michigan or by University of Notre Dame, though, and that's what people are, communicating to me. I'm not suggesting those things are going.
They're out there.
And people want to keep their own the identity of South Bend. They want to still identify with the name South Bend. South Bend.
They get the victory on that. Where's the battle lines? Where do you see where the battle's taking place?
Well, the battle lines, and this is a very simple way of getting it done. Vote. Pay in this process. Get people in there that's going to represent you, that's going to be good for you, so that the families can remain here, they can grow here, they can get a job here, they can feel safe here. You understand what I'm saying? They can be educated properly here. And those things will begin to happen as long as folks still say, well, they're going to do what they keep kicking us off. If you continue to have that same, it's the same results. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. We have to get past that. We have to move past that. Our next door neighbors, our folks that we attend church with, and we have to make sure the value and importance of this electoral process. Once that happens, sure, they go and vote. Go and vote. Vote the person that you want to see in there.
But even if you got the best people in office, that's one piece of the puzzle, right?
No.
Then you have the.
No, that's probably 40% of the puzzle.
You think so?
The other part of the puzzle is just because you vote folks in, don't mean you still don't participate. Read the newspaper, listen to the news, go to the PTO meetings, show teacher-parent conferences. Okay, there is a responsibility that suggests that you still need to participate. Just don't elect folks into office and then expect that there's going to be a pot of gold coming to you, every February during tax season. So that's how that works.
Yeah, people have got to take part in, people can't just sit back and then feel, well, I put this person in office, he or she is going to change it. You still have to get out to support and to vote on different issues that come up, attend meeting, people know what your feelings are.
On the school level, I was talking to some parents a while ago about they no longer have a parent PTA.
Yeah.
It's pretty basic stuff.
Well, because people stop participating. And this is the same reason why we worked really hard a few years back with Mr. George Lane and some other folks, and making sure there was another device to bring the government to people, rooms, public access. We won that. There are a lot more people, and a lot more people are getting a lot more information to go at, but we have to go a little bit further than that. So we got to keep pressing. We can do this. We're winning. Told you about the 2 other grassroots campaigns, access to major court. We're winning. These things are actually happening. They had, overnight, and they're not going to be corrected overnight. But we're winning. We're actually, the momentum is just like small pieces here. If you look over the past 8-10 years, you will see a noticeable difference in some of the things that are going on. But we just don't need to turn. Now we're U-turning.
Work. I mean,
Yeah.
God told Adam to work that. He didn't say go in there and just.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we only have a couple minutes, 4 minutes left. Anything we missed, Bob, or?
No, we wanted to give just the opportunity to talk about the campaign, what his plans are. We wanted to have issues, and we've heard about progress that was made under his time on city council, and we've heard about some of the issues that still have to be worked in weak families and these of marriage, it's in the family, the behavioral problem. They are in charge, and